If something were to happen to you today, would your family be able to recover your digital assets? I've interviewed hundreds of people about this topic, and the answer is almost always a resounding no. For most people who are into crypto, the common dynamic is that one person is super into it and the rest of the family could care less. But even if they think that it's just magical internet money, does not mean that it doesn't have inherent value and doesn't need to be protected. Before we get started in this video, quick disclaimer here, I am not an estate attorney. Consult with your estate attorney. All of the information that I am presenting here is just for informational purposes only, to help you be aware and create some sort of plan. But ultimately, you need to speak with an estate attorney, create a will that serves you, your family, your goals, all of your assets, and make sure that all of this is handled from a legal perspective. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, let's talk about why this is a problem. There are three primary ways that people hold digital assets. Now, there are other custodial options, but for the purposes of this video, we're just going to cover the primary ones that retail investors use. Now, those three are centralized exchanges, self-custody, and ETFs. We'll cover each of these methods and talk about the nuances of actually being able to transfer these assets to our loved ones. Let's first talk about the most common way that people hold crypto, which is on a centralized exchange. When someone holds assets on an exchange, they are trusting the exchange to keep their assets safe and be able to get access to them should they want to transfer or sell the assets. There's inherent risk in holding your assets on an exchange, just like we've seen multiple times with exchange collapses. And this is a little bit different than a traditional banking account. So when we create an account at a bank or brokerage firm, they always ask us to add a beneficiary to the account. By designating a beneficiary, we're telling them who to send assets to should something happen to us, which really simplifies the process for our loved ones to recover our assets after we pass. Now, keep in mind that losing someone is already a really difficult experience, and so the easier that we can make this for our families, the better. Also, it's important to take note that in some states, what is stated on the will supersedes what is stated online. For example, if you live in one of those states and your brokerage account shows one person as the beneficiary, yet your will states another person as the beneficiary, then the courts will use the will to determine the ownership of that asset. There are only a handful of states that do this, so just check online to see whether you're in one of those states. On top of this, given the legal ambiguity of digital assets within the US, most exchanges don't even have a formal manner to designate a beneficiary to customer accounts. Exchanges like Coinbase claim that they will try to help families recover these assets. Your mileage here may vary, but I always recommend speaking with an estate attorney to ensure that your exchange assets are included in your will. Now, real quick, before we move on to the next method, if you find this video helpful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help more people see this content, and I want to help as many people with their finances as possible. The second method that we'll discuss today is self-custody. This means that the owner of the digital assets has full control and also full responsibility to store and protect their assets. Think of it like having cash in digital form. If you lose a $20 bill while out shopping, there's likely no way to recover that. While there might be some support for our families from centralized exchanges, self-custody has nuances, and it's much more complex. Every single chain is different. When you create a wallet, you are given a seed phrase attached to your private public key pair, and this is the digital key to your safe. If you lose that, you're screwed. Also, since you control the asset, the wallet provider does not have a mechanism to transfer the assets on your behalf. So if you're using something like Phantom or MetaMask, they can't just transfer those assets to your family. Now, there are some services on the market that use smart contracts as a dead man switch to transfer the assets from your wallet to another one, but in my opinion, this method is still not in a good enough place to be widely usable. If you're on chains like Ethereum, you have to pay gas in order to move each and every asset into the smart contract, and then your loved ones would have to pay gas again to retrieve each and every asset from the smart contract. And then there are many chains that don't support smart contracts. So if you're holding assets on multiple chains, then you would have to find a smart contract or a service like this that supports every single blockchain that you have assets on. Bitcoin natively does not have smart contracts, and so that doesn't really help us at all. There are some wallets that have begun using newer infrastructure like multi-party compute to provide recovery options. These wallets are newer, so be aware of security risks as well as asset support. Personally, I've yet to find a trusted, secure MPC wallet with recovery options that can store every single asset that I own. So how do we approach self-custody and recovery? If your family stumbled across your seed phrases, would they even understand what the 12 or 24 random words on a piece of paper even mean? Would they know if you have assets in a DeFi protocol or staked with validators? And would they know just to not dump your NFTs at floor prices even though it might be a top 10 rarity? Now multiply this dynamic across each and every blockchain and asset that you own, and the complexity really ratchets up. So in my opinion, every digital asset holder needs to have some sort of recovery plan so their family knows where their assets are located and how to recover them. You can always create your own plan, or if it's helpful for you, I created a digital asset recovery worksheet to help people document and communicate their holdings with their families. It's 16 pages and serves as a guide for both you and your family. And while it doesn't teach them every detail that they need to be able to recover the assets, it will at least provide them knowledge about what you own, where to locate the wallets, how to access them, and who to go to for help. If you're interested, you can purchase it through my website below. If you go this route, print it off and complete it for your own holdings. Do not complete this form online. It needs to be printed and physical, and that really goes for any plan that you create, whether it's the one that I put together or one that you create for yourself. The worksheet guides you through documenting your exchange holdings, your self-custodial wallets, your DeFi positions, NFTs, nodes, and other assets that you hold. I've also included in that an exclusive video about how to complete the worksheet to at least help you get started. So then who should actually create a plan? And how do you know if you have enough digital assets to be worth working through this process? The short answer is that this amount will be different for each person. A good rule of thumb is to ask yourself, would my family be worse off if they could not access these assets? If the answer is yes, then you need a plan. I don't care if you use my worksheet or not, but I strongly recommend creating a formal plan and communicating it with your family. The third way that people hold digital assets are in exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. From a recovery standpoint, this is the most straightforward. Since ETFs are purchased through traditional institutions like Fidelity, SoFi, or other brokerages, these funds are held within a traditional account. And so these assets will be transferred according to the beneficiary that you designate within the account or your will. The downside with this is that, like exchanges, you don't actually own the underlying asset. As the common phrase goes, not your keys, not your crypto. That applies to centralized exchanges as well as the ETFs. The other downside is that, at least at the time of recording this video, the only spot ETFs that are on the market are the Bitcoin ETFs. There are trade-offs with each method of holding digital assets, so just be aware of each of those trade-offs. And regardless of which method you use to hold your assets, have a conversation with your loved ones to ensure that they can access your assets should they need to do so. While this isn't a fun process and it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, it is part of creating a comprehensive financial plan. I hope this helps. If you have any questions about this topic, leave a comment below or send me an email. I would love to have a conversation with you about this, and I hope to see you in another video. Have a great week.